September 11th, 2001, a day that will live in infamy. The 9/11 aircraft hijackings on this day resulted in the death of almost 3,000 people. This is more than Pearl Harbor or any other foreign attack on American soil. This shows just how jarring the attacks were on Americans and their day-to-day lives.
The Flight 93 National Memorial is built along the flight path of Flight 93, adjacent to the Hemlock Grove that the flight crashed into, and consists of a visitor center complex, a tower of voices, and a wall of names.
Our claim is the Flight 93 National Memorial is dedicated to honoring the passengers on Flight 93 who were everyday Americans that became heroes when they saved countless lives by sacrificing themselves to protect others.
History of 9/11. On September 11th, 2001, Al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 commercial planes flying in the United States. 2 planes were flown into the Twin World Trade Center towers in New York City, New York. 1 plane was flown into the Pentagon building, and passengers on the 4th hijacked plane, United Flight 93, heard the news of the other attacks and decided to storm the cockpit. There was a struggle in the cockpit, and the plane crashed into a field in rural Pennsylvania.
Now we're going to watch a video on the design of the memorial.
Almost immediately, temporary memorials develop in the fields near the crash site. People come to this place, this field of honor, to remember. In 2002, Congress and the President designated the Flight 93 crash site as a national memorial, a place protected by the National Park Service, set aside for the American people to commemorate those who so courageously gave their lives, thereby thwarting a planned attack on our nation's capital. An international design competition was launched, with a design for a permanent memorial chosen through a public process. The Flight 93 National Memorial design is specific to this landscape. It is open to natural change through the seasons and over time. The architect intended the memorial to be quiet in reverence, yet powerful in form, a place both solemn and uplifting. A tower holding 40 wind chimes will mark the entrance to the memorial. The sound of the chimes in the wind is to be a gentle reminder of the voices of the 40 passengers and crew. A winding entrance drive of 3 miles leads to the planned visitor center and learning center, which will be the interpretive and educational hub of the memorial. A black granite walkway will mark the flight path and lead visitors to their first view of the crash site below. Tall walls will frame the sky where Flight 93 passed overhead. These will be places to learn about Flight 93 and the larger context of the September 11th attacks. 40 groves of maple and oak trees radiate from the ring road which descends from the visitor center to the plaza. Each grove of 40 trees is a living memorial. A walkway lined with trees, an allée, will provide visitors the opportunity for a contemplative walk from the visitor center to the crash site. Plantings and sandstone benches mark the entrance to the memorial plaza. Trees shade a courtyard with exhibit panels. A shelter made of textured concrete and reflective glass opens to a black walkway. The final resting place of the passengers and crew is outlined by a black sloping wall. A granite walkway and 40 polished marble panels inscribed with the names of the passengers and crew aligns with the flight path. A native sandstone boulder marks where the journey of Flight 93 ended so violently.
Okay, back to the slideshow. The memorial honors the passengers of Flight 93. The memorial is designed to honor the victims. This space is a sacred space because all 45 people on board the flight were killed immediately on impact with the Hemlock Grove. The large open field and the wall of names allow people to focus on the sacrifice the victims made.
So there was some controversy over the initial design of the Flight 93 National Memorial. Some critics, including victim families and conspiracy theorists, believe that the initial design of the memorial has secret Islamic symbols in its designs, specifically the crescent moon shape of the design. The designer of the memorial, Paul Murdo, defended the memorial by saying that it followed the contour and terrain of the area and it had no hidden Islamic symbolism. Proponents of the design also supported it by claiming that the crescent shape was that of an embrace. Paul Murdo eventually changed his design to avoid any larger political controversy. Murdo's new design included a circular-shaped memorial split in half by the flight path of Flight 93, which leads to the crash site. A visitor center and a wall of names aligned with the flight path complete the memorial.
Remembering the victims. The wall of names runs along the flight path of Flight 93. It is made of 40 marble panels displaying the names of each of the victims of the tragedy. The remains of the passengers and crew are in the Hemlock Grove, marked by a sandstone boulder where the plane impacted the ground.
The passengers were everyday Americans. The visitor center displays the objects that survived the impact. Most of these objects are personal belongings that everyone carries, such as wallets, keys, credit cards, and books. The geographical location of the memorial is in the middle of nowhere. This means that if the crash didn't happen here, the field would not be relevant, which also means that visitors would have to go out of their way to visit this site, and because it is not near any major cities or attractions.
The passengers on the Flight 93 were heroes who saved countless lives through their sacrifice. The Wall of Names. The names running along the wall serve as a reminder of the sacrifice that these everyday Americans made and how much it means to give up one's life to protect another's.
The Tower of Voices. The Tower of Voices honors the sacrifice that these Americans have made by having 40 wind chimes, which represents each of the 40 victims. It also alludes to the Tower of Babel, which is a biblical story that questions why people in the world speak different languages. As the wind blows through the tower, their near similar frequencies will create aural harmonies and dissonance.
Conclusion. The Flight 93 Memorial captures the sacrifice that the everyday Americans on Flight 93 made and how they became heroes through this sacrifice. It is designed to honor them and remember their bravery.
Thank you for listening.